I think as an HR professional, we are trying to make a difference. We want to stand out. So there we need to be a little more deliberate, intentional in terms of using AI. Right. So we have to move from average email writing done by AI to, better things. It could be ideation. It could be analysis of numbers when it comes to HR analytics. It could be critically evaluating the output of AI itself to generate new stuff. It could be document intelligence, because a lot of documents is generated, especially in enterprises where HR has to evaluate it, go through that, and make sense out of it. Right? Usually CEOs or anybody for that matter do not have more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes to discuss this. Right? So what if we need to create just 3 slides, show them, get the buy-in, and move ahead? Right? What would that be? Let's look at that. So look at this. It's created a prioritization framework. Now, based on the plan which you mentioned, it's creating problems, impact on the business. It's creating something called attrition rate by department. I would say sales 24% and HR today have highest attrition rates. Customer support also has higher attrition. So these are attrition rates from departments. This kind of conversations or this kind of information happens in once in a year and an annual HR conference, right? But here now we can constantly create interesting ideas. For example, if you want to know only about cred, okay, or if you only want to know about recipe, nobody can replace a storyteller, first of all. Extremely communicative storytellers who can be persuasive, who can be authentic, who can build trust with people is absolute skill. Because if you're a trust builder, it's a huge, huge value. So we are talking about generative AI tools, okay? GenAI tools where you don't need to have a technical background. You don't need to know coding. All you have to know is to do the right kind of prompting, which can help you. Right? So we have, starting from the most popular GenAI tool is the ChatGPT, opened by OpenAI, followed by Google Gemini, which is used by so many companies and individuals. Then we have Anthropic Claude, which is one of my favorite when it comes to doing a lot of real work, which includes analytics. And then Perplexity for interesting research, market, real-time information out there. And then a couple of new ones like DeepSeek, which became quite popular in recent times. And then Copilot, which is used by a lot of Microsoft environment companies. Obviously, Alibaba has also launched a thing called Quinn Chat, which is also interesting, when it comes to model, right? So you have a bunch of tools available there, and the most popular ones being the ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. You have the Twitter X group also there. I think almost 10 tools available to start with. People can have free versions, but most of the people, when they start using free versions, they make a mistake of underestimating what a paid version is. Right? So the pro versions, the plus versions are not just 10% better, it is 10x better. The more you start using it, you will start replacing agency, you start replacing some of the interns and some of the people whom you have been working with. But that's not the idea. The idea is to become more productive, have full control of what you really want to do. Right? So knowledge work, full control on the knowledge work is what this is actually helping us to do. So ChatGPT has a model called Owen, which actually helps you to do advanced reasoning. So you might be thinking, is writing reasoning? No, writing is writing, right? You get to write better, fix grammar, rewrite, refine. You can improve the quality of the writing based on the context you want to do. Right? You can improve the tone of writing, saying that I want to make it more persuasive, or I want to make it formal. I want to sound it like a white paper. I want to sound it like a investing report, right? So each has its own style of writing. The style of writing can be changed in many ways. But when it comes to reasoning, you're actually giving a real problem to AI to solve, right? You're giving a problem statement. So I would consider every prompt is a problem statement. So if you want to create an HR policy manual, it's not that you're just creating an HR policy manual. Creating a problem statement. Hey, this is why we need this. This is the culture of the company. At this point in time, we want to shift to a new way of looking at things. Right? This is tone we want to have. And this is the goal of what an HR policy manual should be having, right? Like the core of the document. So, which means that you're creating the problem statement like in 4 or 5 lines, making it super clear. So prompt is basically you have a persona, you're making the AI model act like a person, right? And you are putting some constraints and conditions, putting the format in which you want the whole thing to come out. And then you're also saying that this is a goal, this is the outcome I want, right? So when you put all these things together, you get something called what do you call a mega prompt. A mega prompt is actually equivalent to a good problem statement. So once a good problem statement is created, HR is solving 50% of what actually the problem is, because you have defined, articulated the problem really well, right? Now, rest of it, AI can do, help you refine, iterate, do the chain of thought prompting. For example, if you don't like one output, so usually people, when they don't like an output, they will go and they skip the output and probably become a little bit impatient in the process. They would give up the process. I've seen like 70% of the people give up the process when the output is not really accurate, or they feel it's not closer to what they want. So that's when we
Mm-hmm.
can actually ask AI model itself to critically evaluate its own output. And fascinatingly, it works really well. Like, for example, you got an output. You can ask AI, say, can you critically evaluate its output and uncover the biases which are there in the output, right? Which means that AI does all the job well. It can critically evaluate its own output. It can unbias it. You can challenge it. You can make it AI itself to explain how it got arrived into it. The arrival of the output, the steps and step process. Which is why when you put a problem statement in an open model, it starts thinking and it kind of explains to you like what are the thought process, what is the thought process involved in making that output. So similar to this, you have Claude, which also has reasonably good reasoning skills. You have DeepSeek, which is the reason why DeepSeek got so popular, was that its own reasoning skills compared to one, it has comparable reasoning skills. But I will go back definitely to OpenAI for that matter. All the demo we're going to do is primarily on OpenAI, ChatGPT, and Claude, for the reason being that these are some of the tools which I've been using for a while and which can help in doing it. I think as an HR professional, we are trying to make a difference. We want to stand out. There, we need to be a little more deliberate, intentional in terms of using AI. Right? So we have to move from average email writing done by AI to, better things. It could be ideation, it could be analysis of numbers when it comes to HR analytics. It could be critically evaluating the output of AI itself to generate new stuff. It could be document intelligence, because a lot of documents are generated, especially in enterprises where HR has to evaluate it, go through that, and make sense out of it. Right? Which means you don't get to read a document, like 100-page document, and make sense of it. It's not easy. How can we use AI to get that done? Still make sense of it, generate insights, and it still can make interesting decisions out of it, right? And moreover, stakeholder reporting is a big aspect of HR, right? Like you work with leadership. Leadership has a very different style of thinking itself, right? So you can even kind of train your AI about the way leaders think and what kind of output or what kind of report could be useful for them. So, example, if a CEO is a story and a number guy, definitely your report should
Mm-hmm.
story and number in place. Right? If a CEO is a very micro detailing guy, I mean, you should have the micro details on your report. So it depends on the personality of the people whom you're dealing with, the stakeholders you're dealing with, and AI can actually customize or create the style of communication to be very precise, and it does the job, right? It's like a thinking assistant, I would say. Thinking assistant, it's like a intelligent companion. It could be a innovation, enabler. It could be a brainstorming enabler as well. It could be an analyst. Even if you're not an analyst, even if you hate the numbers, it can make a lot of sense out of numbers. I mean, all these capabilities are available with OpenAI or Anthropic or anything, right? So knowledge work is completely changing, but the effort required to do good work is still there. Obviously, a lot of average stuff is taken care by AI, but now the effort, I mean, most of the sessions we talk about, okay, how do we move from average to good at least, right? Or good to great with AI? And what are the things which you can do intentionally uh, through advanced prompt engineering or through understanding what these AI models are capable of? So, Ethan Malik, there is a book called Co-Intelligence. If somebody wants to start with thinking on AI and HR, I mean, that'd be a great book to start with. It talks about co-intelligence. So a lot of people think AI replacing people and those kind of theories, but Ethan Malik is very clear that for a long period of time, AI is going to be a super assistant for you. So there is a conversation around AI agents, which is actually an advanced AI assistant. That's it. It's not going to do everything and come back and say that I did that. Right? That's not the way it works. So assistant, super assistant, and AI agent. On top of that, we are talking about AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, and then on top of it is more like now it looks like science fiction, which is called the artificial super intelligence, which is like the entire AI surpassing all the human intelligence. This is like this is the hierarchy which most of the AI companies are talking about for last 2 years. And so I also feel that HR business partner and a set of tools can actually handle so many things compared to of course, HR people always complain about not enough people, but this is going to be adding to that, where they say, okay, stack of tools plus HR will be enough for maybe managing, say, 500 people, right? So right now it
Yeah,
is
yeah, for
between
sure.
200 to 300. Now it can go up to 500, whereas most of the HRBP inquiries can be handled by HR, by the chatbots.
Yeah.
So recently I was talking to IBM. Obviously, they did it three years back, where there are no conversations between HRBPs and line managers or people about small things. Say, for example, what's in it for me, right? They only talk about strategic stuff. They only talk about very important relationship building things. 80% of the conversations on, I don't want to call it trivia, but transaction based, right? Leave, attendance, and all those things, like small
Yeah.
queries.
So
And
the AI. Yeah.
most of the people do not like to bother other people, for small things. So this is taking care of everything. And you have a document also, because the output is coming from AI, so you can always keep it like a document,
Mm.
which makes HRBP a role, an important role: relationship management, stakeholder management, strategy, innovation, creating a good vibe in the organization, and then working with data, which
Yeah.
will be how it
That's
comes.
that's the
I think go to the demo now. I'll let me share it. I'll share the screen itself so that we can shift
yeah, yeah,
any.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, to start with, I think I will go with the writing thing, because writing also has to be deeper. So from
Yes.
writing to ideation to innovation, we'll go one by this. I'll use one thread and then we'll take all the examples in the
Perfect.
same thread.
Perfect.
So let me use OpenAI ChatGPT, say, for example, putting a scenario here. Yeah, like an internal communication memo on culture. So somebody wants to consciously build culture. He's trying to create a structure, right? And the CEO is sending the message, but then it is enabled by HR. For a fintech company with a lot of Gen Z employees, we are giving a little vague thing here, but that's fine. It'll pick up and create something, so we don't have to give a full context. If you have the full context, you can always share that. Okay.
And by context, you mean company context, exactly what is the culture, what are the nuances of it? Okay, got it.
And then what are they building? For example, if fintech companies, it will be B2C or a B2B, makes a lot of difference. Like what kind of people? Is it a talent scarce market? All that will reflect on the kind of memo. If it is a very high talent scarce market, then the whole memo's tone will change. I'm telling you, right? Because I've seen this. Because then they want to be extremely cautious about the way they put it across. Right? Now this comes like this. So you might be thinking, why is this emoji coming in? Is not the way I want it, right? So it's always good. It's uh, always good to kind of evaluate the first thing and then say, no, if you don't want this, you can always say, create warm tone and make it informal, right? Just like a conversation, you put it across, right? Now, the moment it comes, it says, let's build a culture we love, right? So it's informal, it's warm, it's not like this, right? This one is a bit more academic. This comes different. Now, if you have a specific style, for example, people love the style of Airbnb or Spotify, right? You know, on Netflix for that matter, right? So if you want to kind of borrow the style of, say, for example, Spotify in their communication, right? You can always do that, but obviously it comes in the cost of the being authentic. But then, people can always experiment with new stuff, right? So there is an Airbnb style to communication, and then it'll just change the way, making it more be.
And we can also do this, right? If we have many past communications of, let's say, the CEO style, we can just maybe upload that and say use the same
So here
framework
we
or
can
whatever.
upload it. Like if you look at here, you can upload that document. Like, so the best thing is to kind of put entire CEO communication letters into one PDF, right? Just copy paste it on one PDF and use that PDF as to kind of give us a benchmark here. And the benchmark goes inside and it will start mimicking the same thing, right? So that's one way of looking at it, right? So sometimes this company might have its own style of, like brand style guide for that matter. or for that matter, like a 30-page document which is written in the house style of the company. It has its own vocabulary, style, and everything. The way the sentences are constructed in that document will actually mean a lot when it comes to working on a very serious document like this. So all these things can be done pretty much like create tones or like some example, make a table of culture factors, right, from this email, right? So if you have the email, but you want to kind of create a table to see what are the culture factors which have been included in this email, you always do that, right? So I like the table format for the fact that it kind of makes it pretty simple, easy to understand, also easy to comprehend. Like from the email, so sometimes we may forget the fact that what this email is talking about, right? But when you put it in a thing, this could be part of something else, right? Easy to consume snippets of information. Now, if the culture thing could be now make these into interesting office branding thing, right? So you have the culture thing out there. Now you want to kind of convert that into interesting of office branding ideas like wallpapers or digital displays or whatever. How do you do that? Now, this is actually the way we can now the sudden shift from a very formal memo to a table, which is like easy to understand, like ideas in office brand, right? Same thread we are using. Makes sense.
Makes sense.
Or yeah, so I mean, so this is called content repurposing, right? So you have the content, you can use the same content, make it into different formats, or repurpose it into for various use cases. On this is on the writing part. Like for example, what if we want to kind of create ideas? Sure, let's see. I mean, this is not real prompting, but we'll see what kind of responses come because it already has the context with it. It kind of might try to come up with some interesting stories. Because the moment you leave it to its creativity, it kind of becomes a little wild, right? When it comes to doing things, since we have very less context here, right? Now look at this. Now we have enough of employee engagement ideas which are generating for building culture, right? Various ideas. So, example, you pick up one idea, and say, for example, make an execution plan for this.
Yeah, and this can actually be used for, let's say, sometimes offline. You've discussed that, hey, I want to do this, right? Let's say I want to do an offsite or whatever it is. And then you go to ChatGPT, put this, uh, like you're saying, make an execution plan. Or maybe you've identified a problem statement that I want to do this, that you already have it identified. You put it ChatGPT and then it can actually make a project plan like you're about to.
So now we have 10 ideas, for building culture, right? And each of it has, like, for example, three ideas each. So one idea, for example, make work feel like mission, not a job. Three ideas for that. Build a culture of ownership. Three ideas for that. So you have total 30 ideas which is generated by it. So what if you like this idea, CEO's open problems board, and then you want to kind of build based on that, pick up that and then put it and say, then make a project plan for this enabled by HR, which means that out of 30 ideas you like, this could be something practical. Or let me explore this idea by asking AI, like, can you expand this? Can you give an execution plan for this? Or maybe for you to check it with somebody, some people, because it's a collaborative thing, right? So you may have to check this idea with someone and you pick it up like this.
What you just did here, Krishna, is uh, when it seems so simple, but it's not. It's basically you're using it as like a thinking assistant, right? Like a strategy guide for you. Many a times, like we are faced with, we have to do ABC, but then we have no one to really talk to, no one to ideate off. You can't call up 10 of your peers. And this is amazing, right? You put this in GPT and it'll give you 30 ideas, right? I don't think any human can come up with 30 ideas. And then you refine it, right? It's like a second brain for you again.
Absolutely. So one thing, like for example, if you take this to the CEO, right? There is a possibility that he might not like the idea. Okay. So what we can do is like, so this is about CEO's involvement here, CEO's open problems. We can ask like, give me 5 objections that come from the CEO, right? We have
Interesting.
clear logical thing there, right? Since we made this, possible CEO objections around it, a lot of us are not logically prepared for certain questions, right? So this is like, this will slow us down. We don't have time for employees to take on extra projects, right? So the response is, how can we do this? So if we have the answers with us, or if you feel after reading the alternative answers, which one makes sense to you, you can go with that. Right? Which means that you have options with you. You have the different possibilities and scenarios which you have actually thought of. You can also make logical arguments based on this and a very solution oriented approach because you had picked up the biases from the so there's objections, right? So when you present an idea to the stakeholders, I'm sure that there'll be resistance, objections, and FAQs or stuff like that, and how to handle that.
This is very useful because this is one of the big problems with us, our function. There's a lot of resistance
Now,
in
for
our
example, there is
ideas.
a huge project here. CEO, usually CEOs or anybody for that matter, do not have more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes to discuss this. Right? So what if we need to create just 3 slides? Just 3 slides, show them, get the buy-in, and move ahead. Right? What would
Hmm.
that be? Let's look at that. So, for example, this is a huge plan. This plan can't be shown to anyone with, like, I mean, it would take at least 30 minutes for us to show this. Right? Now, if pressed for time, show on 3 slides and this to get the buy-in. So I want a 3 slide copy actually. I want 3 slides, 3 slide copy to present CEO, open problems board concisely. Now look at this, right? This is actually a very so probably in between the chaos you would not think like this, right? You are inside the problem, right? Now slide one, why this matters, key points, right, and how it works. Pretty straightforward. And what are the guardrails we can put in to make sure that this is working and expected business impact? I think this will be like a killer, 3 slide pitch you can give to make this happen, right? Like to get the buy-in, right? Make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is amazing. It's amazing. I mean, we, and this is what we do, right? Like, you have to make a process, you have to make a policy, you have to present it, you don't get buy-in, and then you come back after a week, again, you go, you scratch your head. But then I'll just do this, right? Let's say I made a new performance appraisal process, something little interesting. I possibly can't think of what are the objections I can face or my PPT, how well it can be. I can just upload that PPT, give context, and say, give me the problems and give me make a copy for me. At least it'll give me the points for me to be aware of. This is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the culture building, maybe we can apply a framework, right? Example, Pareto analysis to this. So it would come up with very, very interesting Pareto analysis based stuff. Like it's taking that problem and then applying Pareto there and how to save time.
This would be very killer in our the ENPS surveys we do. If you have the data of all the surveys and tell it to apply Pareto, it'll probably be able to actually find out what your 80/20 problems are.
So look at this. It's created a prioritization framework. Based on the plan which you mentioned, it's creating problems, impact on the business is implementation priority level, right? Which means that it is applying the Pareto principle, right? There in this particular project and helping you to understand clearly about why this should be priority, why certain things needn't be priority. And final CEO pitch could be a data driven ask. Right? So I think it's like having a very strong HR super intelligent assistant with us, to think through some of the problems which you have been through, even without having to go through the process of talking to a lot of people. So if you have the clear context, so we gave the ChatGPT prompt with very minimal context, very minimal. Like we just wanted to have a 4 or 5 factors. Right? What if you have full document? It is going to be super precise. The reason why most of the time when I do sessions, I want to work with the live data. Two things. One, live data, they're all hooked onto it. Right? They want to know what the result is. Secondly, they would easily understand even the nuances of the output because they know the context so deeply that the nuances of output very, very clear. So even there, it works so well. I've seen people who have created a 3 year strategy. So recently, we're talking to a big construction group. Okay. So they did a 3 year strategy from moving from 100 crore to 500 crore. And they had the strategy which they prepared 1.5 months back. So it was a very clear document wherein a big consulting company was also involved in that. And then we shared the context with ChatGPT and we created a strategy plan. Except one point, all the 4 other points were part of the thing. And they like the last fifth point also because that's so crucial, right? So basically what it means is it's doing the job of a collaborative effort of a board members with consulting with chartered accountants together to create a plan for moving from 100 to so well that in fact the executive director who listened to this whole presentation was like really mind blown. I said, I never knew this could be. I mean, it was a new information for me as well because it worked so well. Right? So what I'm saying is strategy, innovation, analysis. It's going to be a killer. Right? Now let's look at the bit of analysis as well. I'll take a new example. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, of course. So, and one thing before we go to this, Krishna. So, what I liked was what you're suggesting is continue the same thread. We started, gave it context, and then question after question after question on the same thread. So that is, you're saying 10x better than you don't get something, you click, you open up a new context window.
Absolutely. Because the context is thread and thread has the memory and AI models actually get better and better with the whole thread which goes right.
Okay.
Well, because every output is added as a context to it. Now, when we started the prompt, it was a single line prompt, right? But the output came and we liked it. So because we liked it, we'll add that also to the context. If you don't like it, you say this is not the way you want. So there is a thumbs up and thumbs down there, right? So if you say thumbs down, it won't take that output as your further context, right? But rather, if you put thumbs up, it takes that also in addition to the prompt which you've given as a context. So it improves, right? So after 3, 4 prompts, after 3, 4 outputs, what happens? Prompt plus output, you have a very long context thread out there to work on. The reason why on the fifth or sixth chain of thought prompting, it gets much better refined and you get closer to, what you want.
And this is called the chain of thought prompting, right?
Yeah. So there is thing called, for example, if you like the idea, but you want to get the step-by-step breakdown of the whole thing, right? Mostly it happens, right? So solution is not enough, right? We need to know how the solution is arrived. Can you break down, slice it into step-by-step process, which will help you to kind of get a better picture of it, right? So if you say that, I need to, deassemble an entire cycle, it just go back step by step and does that, right? And you say you want to reassemble it, it goes back and, kind of step by step and do it. So you can do it in different ways. But, you should say that I want to reassemble faster. And how will I reassemble faster with, so that reassembly should be done in such a way that the reassembly can be done faster, right? You get that. So that level of thought is going to do that. So breaking down the problem into slices actually makes a lot of difference when it comes to doing this. So we saw some examples, just some fun examples to be precise. But we can do a lot of research. So if people have not used much of what do you call this perplexity, let me take you to perplexity a little bit.
Yeah. Research is going to be helpful, right? A lot of times
A lot of
we want to know
research.
what.
For example,
Yeah.
competitive benchmarking, employer branding,
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of areas where you need to know what other companies are doing, what are their practices, how are they doing it. Obviously, you have industry friends to check on that, but definitely you need a lot of information from the real time as well, right?
Benchmarking is a very good use case.
Yeah, let's try that now. One is of course Perplexity. It's one of the tools which I like because, for example, you can ask for employer branding in, say, for example, deep tech companies in India. It had one what they do innovatively. So, like ChatGPT, what it does is it actually has something called the search. Of course, ChatGPT also has a search GPT now. But if you look at these are the company names, the companies which are in deep tech and employer branding strategies and innovative practices here.
And it's picking up from the internet, right?
It is
Whatever's
picking
available.
up from the web. It's been crawling and organizing. So crawling, organizing, and putting. So it's also using its own intelligent LLM, right? For example, if you really look at it, you can see Auto Pro Search, Reasoning with R1, Reasoning with R3 Mini. So it's using Mini from OpenAI. It's also using Reasoning with R1, which is by DeepSeek, and then creating it. If you look at this is the best part of Perplexity, which means
Yeah.
that once you want to start learning something, it will keep on nudging like an intelligent, um, research assistant keeps on nudging you on going through different areas. Like now you can say what are some of the unique web branding strategies used by data companies in India, strategy and description. So here we saw the company name strategies. Here, so we are seeing some of the unique strategies, right? Then how are they using social media for that matter? Like if you want to know more about it, um, it will again showcase what it is. This is one because you're
It's very
talking
helpful.
about something called. So when you ask this question, it went and searched so many and then brought out the whole thing in a curated list of 8 links. And these are very verified, good links if you talk about, right? Sometimes from great place to work or whatever. So this is interesting for competitive benchmarking, a lot of research on companies, talent, markets, employer branding. Just want to show you, and of course, you can search images, videos, and even generate image also for that matter. So there is a basic page called Discover where it can be used just like a Google search. It keeps adding, just like Wikipedia, it kind of keeps adding, for example, news or things like that.
That was helpful. A lot of times, yeah, we want to see what everyone else is doing and do that, right? Exactly the use case that you did. I've copied from two, three other companies because I've seen it on LinkedIn, but I could have asked, I would have probably got better answers.
Right. Even ChatGPT's search is quite good now. We will take an example from there as well because ChatGPT search is free right now.
The web
Again,
search, right?
yeah, web search. If you go here, the normal prompting will not take searches. So if you click on search, it goes to searches. For example, make a table of employer branding. That's 10 factors and examples.
You have to redo it.
It will come. Usually it comes.
Yeah, that's weird. I've also not seen it. Maybe we can try India instead of Bangalore.
Try away. We don't need searches actually. If you come even otherwise, I can say this, right? So somebody wants to learn the best practices of people management, right? The reason why I said Ranak, like learning is a key here, right? I mean, this kind of conversations or this kind of information happens in once in a year and an annual HR conference, right? But here now we can constantly create interesting ideas. For example, if you want to know only about cred, okay, or if you only want to know about recipe, right, you
You can
can
double
go
click on
deeper,
that, right?
deeper, deeper and learn that. Right? Because if you are a fintech, you can learn from other fintech companies. If you are into D2C, you can learn from other D2C companies. So learning wise, it's huge when it comes to example. So, example, now create a 2 hours. So, example, now most of the people might need with examples and insights that will be used for HR. So it takes that examples, creates a proper 2 hour masterclass on employer branding for HR business partners, right? How do we do that? So I think usually the L&D teams usually work like this, right? They create the platform, they decide a topic, and they kind of find out like what are the best insights we can give and help people to inspired about, right? Or give them a proper framework on how to work on it or an execution path for that matter. And with examples. And people love examples because it is easily relatable and they can see that this is not just an idea, this is an idea which is used by companies to do things. The results which they get out of it is quite inspiring. I think most of the people want proven paths, right? So examples give you that proven path for people to do it. So what I'm saying this now, this is interesting because from this model, we're creating a 2 hour masterclass content.
But this is good. I was reading
Yeah.
glimpses. They're all very good content.
I can share the thread with you because sometimes I mean, it is publicly shareable thread. Sometimes people want to find it useful. Now, for example, here you look at employer branding framework. So somebody might not know what employer branding framework is or uh, what is called employer value proposition, things like that. Now, how do we apply employer branding framework to our company? So if we have a document about our company, upload that and say apply employer branding framework and create a strategy for me for the next 3 months to improve my employer branding or improve my attraction quotient or whatever, or improve to help more referrals from my own people. So a good employer branding is not only for getting people from outside, it's also helping your own people to start referring things. Right? You are encouraging people to do that. How do you do that? So based on the goal you have, you can apply the employer branding framework and say, this is the goal I want. This is specifically what I want to do. Now give me a path. Now share the 90-day plan. What are the things which I can do? Considering that I don't have a separate budget for doing this, considering that I don't have another team member to help me with that. So you can put the conditions and constraints and still get to work on a plan.
Got it. I think, Krishna, after this, we want to pick up data analytics because that's going to be a big one, something that we all struggle with.
Definitely. So for data, what I'll do is I'll create a sample data here itself, hypothetical data. What should be about? It should be about. What is the hardest part of HR analytics when it comes to numbers? What do you want to find out from that?
I
So I'll
think
create the sample data itself and then start analyzing it.
I think attrition is the one that I think would be the most relatable example. Maybe just attrition. It's very simple, plain vanilla attrition analytics.
I'll say I want to do attrition analytics, and I'll create sample data for that, right? Or for example, for an IT or like a product company, right?
Yeah, let's say take 300 people for past 1 year or something.
So it might create sometimes a basic sample data, but it's fine. Let's use that data right now.
By the way, your
Otherwise,
screen is not
Excel
shared.
sheet, Excel sheet or Google sheet is enough. You can drag and drop the Excel or Google to work on the data. Since we don't have any data right now, I'm just creating a sample data here, hypothetical one, just to work on it.
By the way, Krishna, we haven't shared your screen.
So what we're doing is create sample data of attrition to do attrition analytics for a product company with 300 people in Bangalore. So just bring out the information there. Now you can see, right?
Ideally, we have this, right? We will have this Excel with us and we'll just upload it.
Otherwise, you can drag and drop the Excel sheet out here or a PDF or whatever you have, right? It's taking a bit of time because it's how to create a data right now. Let's look at this now. Now, what we can do is if you don't know anything about what to do with this, you can ask, like, for example, give me 5 hidden insights from if you just don't know anything, right? Obviously, if you know what to ask for, yes, you can ask that. But since I don't know what to ask for, like I thought, okay, let me try to get the hidden insights from it. This hidden insights are different from insights. Insights are like plain obvious stuff. Hidden insights is the relationship between the variables, and they kind of try to figure out like there is some insight which can help us, right, somehow to handle attrition.
Can you just scroll the data and show what are the columns that it's created?
If you look at this is how the data looks like. Employee ID, age, gender, department, education level, everything.
On the right, there are some more columns.
Yeah, yeah. It is years of experience, performance rating, attrition, joining date, last working.
Got it, the usual one. Okay.
Now what happens is creating something called attrition rate by department. I would
Hmm.
say sales 24% and HR 23 have highest attrition rates. Customer support also has higher attrition. So these are attrition rates from departments. Then salary distribution for attrition was non. So these are some of the dependent variables, like they're creating correlation between variables and showing how this can be done. Impact of performance on attrition. Low performance have the highest attrition rate, obviously, indicating performance related excess. Right? This is sample data, okay?
It's very
So
interesting.
trying to create that. Now, if you want to know, based on this, create a plan to manage attrition and reduce it by 30% in next 90 days. Like, you want to plan for that, right? Now this could be done based on this, let's say, diagnosis and quick wins, 1 to 3 weeks. Deep dive into nutrition causes, quick fixes for urgent issues, structural interventions, with retention boost for high risk groups. I mean, obviously, this is how most of the HR would function, like in a structured way to keep the nutrition under check.
It's not like people will take this and do exactly this, but there's a
Yeah,
lot of stuff that you can actually use,
right.
which otherwise you wouldn't have thought of or would have
Certain
structured it this
examples
way.
like this, no, thank you for like sense of pure recognition. Subtle things which, and this is sometimes a reminder also. Like as humans, we sometimes feel overwhelmed by a lot of things, and when you work with AI, I feel, oh, there are so many ideas out there which we can use. And when another human talks about this idea, we may, take it in an egocentric way. Whereas AI is like absolutely artificial, so we don't have an ego with AI, and obviously we have high regards for AI when it comes to the way it is trained, the neural networks, and the compute power used to create this, right? So people take feedback from AI pretty seriously, especially when it comes to analytics because of that. And it's unbiased; it doesn't know you, right? So you don't have to feel personal about it. So yeah, so many things like we can now think of like makeup. What else do you do? Regression analysis. I don't know what it
We are
is.
we
Let me
we
try
we would want
this.
to make graphs and stuff also with it.
Yes, we can do that. We can create visual dashboards, but it's not as good as like how we think. It's very basic. At least we get to know. Maybe it's not, it can't be even used in a presentation, I believe, because it might look very basic. But you get to know how it works. So I just tried, I don't know, like I just said regression analysis. It came like that overall model performance and everything. So here, experience does not significantly impact attrition in the company, right? No strong evidence that any gender or department is significantly enhanced. So things which we feel are like, I mean, sometimes we as humans might get biased about certain factors of attrition, and based on the numbers, it kind of uncovers certain, things.
Yeah. I think this is a very good use case, Krishna. I used it myself. We had a bias thinking that people are going late, that's why they're leaving. And some samples showed that. But then we actually did a regression analysis. It was very clear that it is not because of that, right? And we generally don't tend to think that way. And you would have thought, oh, iske liye ho raha hai. But so turns out it wasn't true.
Yeah. So even if we do not know much of data analysis, you can actually converse, have a conversation with the data, right? Now, having conversation with the data do not need you to become a data analyst. You can say, hey, give me best insights which can help me to reduce attrition. That's a very simple way of putting it across, right? For example, what I did is create a table of 5 insights and show it is about how insight, evidence, so the evidence of how statistically it has been arrived and implication. Now, you might not make sense of this because you are not a numbers person sometimes, because analytics requires you to be little, but then you know the inside, right? And it has evidence and implication. So that's how it make. I'm not a fan of their visual representation, but let's try it. It's taking a little bit of time because, so this is very, very, basic, yeah. But you get to know how it works. It'll improve. Maybe people who are used to highly visualized dashboards might find this very basic. So that's about the data part. Like, and I'm sure that you can do so many things with the data. Even HR can play around with the financial data of the company to see how it works. So there are, I mean, marketing data, budget. I think a lot of budget things also come right to HR and allocation of budget or what HR budget needs to be, right? So how do you, whenever Excel thing comes up, people are like a little rattled because they have the things to do and then this has to be done. This is where AI could be a big enabler.
Yeah. So with
Bigger
working
things.
with salary costs, that would be a big one, right? Because that's a big part
Payroll,
of HR. Payroll
compensation,
costs.
benchmarking, payroll, salary costs, even anomalies. So there is something called anomaly detection. If you have a Excel sheet with you and if you want to find anomalies without going through every cell, right? You can do that. You can clean the data. For example, if you have an Excel sheet somebody has shared with you, but the data is scattered and not clean and it's not put properly, you can put it on, then clean the data and create a new Excel sheet itself, right? So cleaning data, extracting insights from data, anomaly detection. Think about whatever. So example, I always, when I put this thing, what are the 10 things which I can do with the data? I don't know, right? I'm a beginner in the analytics space. I have the data with me. Now, based on the complex variables out there and the numbers out there, like 10 things which I can do with it. So AI itself is suggests, so these are 10 things which you can do with it. Pick up one by one and ask it. It's going to be generating that, right? So it's a very collaborative, very intuitive at times, making it easy for you to work with it because it is giving you so much. Like, I mean, so fast, like you don't take much of time to do the rest of it, right? So now it took 10 seconds for us to get the insights. I'm sure that people love, if it can be done so fast, right? So I feel people who have not been doing HR analytics just because of some reasons will now get into this. Because they were not comfortable about an area like L&D, they don't have to worry, they can get into this. L&D has a lot of documentation. I get to know because I work with a lot of L&D teams. Pre-assessment, post-assessment, feedback, summary of the report, L&D teams, and then content. It's like a full stack of content I would required for just delivering a 3-4 hour program. So that's the kind of preparation which is required for doing this. Earlier, always I remember like me struggling to prepare a one pager for a program. Now I send 5 pages, right? Take it, So I mean, it's changed a lot when it comes to doing documents.
You want to touch on, I think you already explained a little bit on the L&D, right? You gave an L&D example. I think people can use that same framework there. You mentioned document intelligence at the beginning. Do you want to touch a little on that? Because I'm assuming this is like all the documents and policies and the thousands of docs we have to go through. What
Absolutely.
exactly did you mean by this?
I'll take you through that now. Basically, what it means is that you have the document with you. For example, you have ChatGPT here, and then what if you want to create, for example, Okay, I'm just dragging and dropping a report here. Okay, this is a thing on critical thinking with AI. This is a report actually by one of the universities in the US, but I don't have the time to read everything. Give me five best insights I can use to make a post in LinkedIn. So I feel this document is good. It's interesting. I don't have the time to read everything, but here is the thing, right? I want to make a post about it in LinkedIn. It kind of extracts it from this and shows you the core 5 points. Maybe these are the five key points which you need to know, right? You don't have to read a 25-page research article. Instead, you can extract the whole thing from here. I'm sure that there are a lot of documents like this in the enterprises as well, which only want you to kind of focus on the core, right? Not on the, small details.
Understood.
Same thing with Excel or anything, right? For example, if you have a infographic out there, like a screenshot, or as for example, I have a infographic here, and infographic has a lot of numbers and text and make a table out of it, which means that this is going to, it's a McKinsey 2025 AI report, okay? And then it is going to create a table out of it. It's extracting the entire thing and making a table out of it. See, this might not be, can't be used directly, right? It's an infographic, it's an image. The image extraction is one of the key capabilities. A lot of images, PDFs, Excel sheets is what we call as document intelligence. Makes sense?
Very good. We get a lot of reports. There's a lot of HR reports out there.
Yeah.
100 pages. I don't know. I can't read 100 pages. It's very useful.
Or even for that matter, if you get a company document, you can ask like, okay, I'm responsible for the HR side of things. So can you give me a perspective of the entire document in an HR perspective? What are the things I should be prepared for? What are the things which I should be cautious about? Or what are the things which I should, include in my, preparedness framework, like, priorities. So it will go and read the entire 100-page document of the organization and pick up the HR areas and bring it to you, right? It's so difficult otherwise, to pick and choose every bit of it and do it, right? So earlier there used to be yellow marking, right? Oh, this is my part, this is my part. Now the yellow marking is automatically brought to it, and you have the exact part. And you can even say that, okay, this is the HR part now. How do I relate to the rest of the parts? How I relate to the leadership? How will I talk to marketing? There could be something called empathy, right? So, for example, when you throw the document, you can say, I want to be more empathetic to HR, finance, supply chain people. Give me reasons for that. Oh, this is what they're going through. This is what they're going through. This is what they're going through. So it allows you to talk to them, understand what they want, even before they're telling you. Such kind of possibilities can be done so effortlessly with collaborating these models. I also want to show you Claude, which I told you in the beginning, because Claude is a very
Yeah,
interesting
sure.
model. Now this is how Claude will look like. For
What
example, you
would be
can
my largest use case that I would use Claude for over the other two?
Claude is very similar to OpenAI, but I find their idea generation, their ability to think through problems are quite different. I'm not saying better than AI, better than OpenAI, but it's different. Example, I'm interviewing a candidate for marketing manager position in e-commerce company. Now, this is what it is. Like we are trying to create
Hmm. Okay. Interview questions.
interview questions. Yeah.
This is very useful actually.
Or for that matter, we can even do something. Like example, like I'm just putting my document out here. So this is, imagine you've got the resume and give me 10 context specific
Interview questions. Yeah. This is very useful. I do this actually.
candidates. So like
And
I
it's
just,
if you add more context to it, like if you have a set of, let's say, your culture values and all of that,
right.
you can upload that and say, give me questions
If you have a
based on
job
that.
description is big, right?
Ah, correct, correct. Yeah.
It just matches and gives you the whole thing. So this is a document which I made for myself, when I share it with companies. So now these are the things which I can ask me. So specific challenge organization when you think generative AI could make an impact or whatever, right? Which means that it is very relatable, it's very clear.
And the only thing is, if you don't put more context to it, it can be gamed because the candidate on the other side could have also asked this and come prepared. That's why that context matters a lot.
So I think that's when we can change, like say, Like you put your goal, right? My goal is this, and now what kind of questions should I ask, right? Which makes a lot of difference when it comes to doing this. Claude also has like something called choose style. When you click here, you can see normal, concise, explanatory, formal. You can even
Okay.
create your own custom styles in edit here, which is not there on OpenAI.
Okay.
You can connect it to Google Drive, obviously, and even capture a screenshot. So just to give you an interesting thing, like Claude has something which is called as create a home landing page. So this is used by a lot of programmers for the fact that they don't need to code. Uh, Basically, what happens is delivery platform is using React. You know the React language, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's creating a Swiggy style landing page just now. It's coding actually. If you really look at it, it's coding. And why I'm sharing this because 90% of the programmers are using Claude or OpenAI, to do coding. And this fast is
More, right? They're more
yeah,
using Claude.
yeah. Look at they have created a Swiggy kind of landing page to start with, a basic one. Right?
Hmm.
Actual programming you can build on it. There's a code, there's a program. So yeah, I mean, Cursor is one of the other platforms which most of the programmers use.
Programmers use.
The HR, I'm sure that it'd be interesting to see if you're an engineering company, there are a lot of people using these tools. Developer is another one. Build.new is another one. Cursor is obviously have crossed the threshold of being the best AI code editor. OpenAI and Claude is like again a LLM based editors. The other one is on LLM, but this vertical apps only for coding. VO is another one.
Even Sonnet, no, so not Sonnet. This one, Replit for straight up
Replit
making
is
apps.
So the idea to prototype has become so fast that you can do it in a day. And from prototype to actual building can probably happen in 2, 3 weeks if you have the thought process and product thinking. And then you can think of like, how do I do it? Like maybe for someone who wants to do a prototype, do an MVP, wants to kind of try out in the market, they can do it. Yeah, that's the opportunity. Obviously, it was there for last 3, 4 years, especially. But this makes it even more crazy. The speed to the market or whatever.
And I think, I mean, while probably not many will use it, but then again, there are a lot of times when in the people function, progressive startups think that, hey, I wish there was an app for it, right? Us in the people function. Now you can just build
There
it
is
in
something
Replit.
called, I wish there an app to it. It's saying now it is called as, there is an AI for that.
Yeah,
There is actually a website called There is an AI for that, which would be the best directory for AI companies. So
I've
if
seen that.
you are keen to know like what are the companies coming. So one of my favorite discovery platforms for AI products is called Product Hunt, obviously. Because Product Hunt is all full of Gen AI products now. Like every week launches that happen. A lot of indie makers, solopreneurs are now building AI products, launching a product hunt. Some of them fail very fast, but some of them pick up. Even if there are 100,000 users, most of Gen AI products can survive because micro SaaS is the area where Gen AI can survive because there's not much of cost. Like so, entrepreneurs can still make money, pull off things, right? So there's a huge influx of such product companies, small product companies, which actually HR can use actually because these are all $10, $20 products.
Yeah, Product Hunt is very good. There's a lot of HR products that I've seen.
Yeah. If you want to seriously look at it, Y Combinator's Gen AI directory is also very good. Because if you look at last cohort, 75% companies are Gen AI companies. So in HR, there is also something called compliance, legal, and stuff like that, regulatory stuff, right? Some of the HR people have the challenges where they don't know about a new problem which came up just like out of the blue and you are supposed to solve that, like, random problems coming in. AI could be a big enabler here and understanding the legal framework, what are the steps to be done. Have you ever seen HR leaders worrying about cybersecurity problems because they don't have a cybersecurity person there? So it'll come to HR straight away. Do this, there is a challenge, there is an emergency situation. So AI could be a good enabler of what are the steps to be taken. For example, there is a cybersecurity challenge. What are the first 5 things I should do before I go and figure it out? What are the 5 things which I do in terms of legal compliance before it flies up? So a lot of pre-existing knowledge is not required for solving problems now. Obviously, when Google search also, when it kind of came up so well, a lot of people didn't want to know what it is. You just have to Google and find out how to do it and fix it, right? AI is kind of amplifying that possibility that you don't need to be a legal guide to solve a legal problem. You don't need that existing knowledge there. Like you can be an absolutely new person, beginner in that area, but still can fix it, which makes AI one of the most interesting companions, in knowledge work.
Krishna, bringing all this together, so I read somewhere that legal as a function is slightly at risk, right? Because there's a lot of things that exactly what you were saying. So, from your experience in the people function, right? Now, people function is various sub functions, right? Recruiting, L&D, blah blah, all of it. Which one do you think is most at risk that people who are there should be slightly worried, and what do they do about it?
There is a framework where I feel if it can be done better by AI, example, I'm sure L&D content development, nobody can beat AI.
100%.
Like even if you're an L&D guy for 25 years, you cannot beat AI in terms of how they come up and thinking thought process and contextually understanding the whole thing. Obviously, you can give the vibe check of people. Hey, this is the kind of people there. You know the people. You know how they respond to things. Yeah, that's a good ground knowledge which is required. But that could be a context which can actually help AI to kind of bring out brilliant stuff. For example, what if your audience is always looking for examples, insights, and projects? You don't need content. You just give them example, show the insight, and then make them do something. The L&D guy knows that this is what our people love, right? You give it to AI and then you create content just like that. It kind of apply that thing and brings out the best content, which is the hardest part, right? Knowing the context is one, and applying that into and making a content which is relatable to that is the hardest part. Hiring, of course, the last mile hiring will still remain with humans because ultimately humans can only convince humans. But a lot of ATS based work and application monitoring, even the video interview links and all can be done. So I think
Callings, yeah.
up to 70% of work can be done. I don't know whether people are doing it successfully. Can be done, possibly. But the point here in India is that we don't trust any such AI interview links, and people are not excited about it. If you are a good talent, you would never go and do it. You would want someone to call you and want to work on it. It's
Very
more
India problem.
you're giving value to someone, right? Coming to your organization, not by sending an AI link to them, right? You call them and talk to them or email them formally, right? So it's a formal approach. Recruiting feel a lot of funneling can be done with AI. Like from 1,000 to 10, you can reach with AI. But from 10 to 1, the journey is all human.
Got it. And what are the skills you think that, so given that we know, right, this is going to happen, right? People can say no, but it's going to fundamentally come into our world, right? It's already started coming. What are the skills that, let's say I'm a young guy, right? I'm 25, I started on my career in HR. What are the skills I should really index on, which will never go away, right? Which will only 10x if I use AI properly.
I think critical thinking, right? Like if you're able to think critically, it's a lot valuable. Secondly, you are a storyteller. Nobody can replace a storyteller, first of all. Extremely communicative storytellers who can be persuasive, who can be authentic, who can build trust with people is absolute skill. Because if you're a trust builder, it's a huge, huge value. And then the curiosity. A lot of people are still stuck in the conditioning paths, like, where they feel I've been there, done that, or this is how it worked for me earlier. It should be working for me right now also, right? That's the kind of thinking. Right? There's a book called "What Brought You Here Won't Get You There," right? I think that's the same thing which is happening with AI. Something which worked 2 years back needn't work. It may work, but it needn't work further. And the curiosity is something which actually catalyzes someone in the AI era because the more, how do you use AI? How do I experiment with it? And there is no absolute outcomes from AI, right? If you really look at the outcomes which you got, they're not definitive outcomes. They are like non-deterministic outcomes, which are outcomes which are sometimes can surprise you, sometimes can underwhelm you, sometimes could be very basic for you. If you want really surprising outcomes, real outcomes, the collaboration you have to do with AI is key. It won't give you surprising outcomes just by itself. You have to collaborate, you have to give context, you have to think. Right keywords also matter. So in HR, and for that matter, any domain knowledge, you need the right keywords to interact with the AI model to figure out what needs to be done best. For example, if you say EVP, it understands. If you say employer branding, it understands. If you say talent management, it understands. If you use any other word, it would have definitely different meanings to it. So keywords would make a lot of difference. And then your insights also matter, right? So if you share the insights, it's going to be amplifying to the next level. Project management. I'm looking at it like this. One person who is super curious, critical thinker, a storyteller, a trust builder can actually use AI and can become really powerful. Can become really powerful. Say like in 1 or 2 years, if they start their journey now. A lot of people have started the journey, but if they can accelerate it, it's going to be an interesting journey altogether.
And like you said, like if you're on the path of one man $1 trillion companies, then there's probably a day where you'll have one man HR teams handling 500,000 people. Very possible. Everything else is done by the AI. You're just there to do the important stuff, the conversations. This one, building trust. Cool. Krishna, this has been amazing. Before we wrap, you're a powerhouse and a knowledge of everything AI. Where can people find you and any closing thoughts from you?
Yeah, sure. So, I've always been doing a lot of workshops. Last 2 years, you know that, right? I've been doing workshops, more than 100 plus workshops in the last 2 years, covering almost 30,000 people, leaders, professionals, teachers, doctors, researchers. I mean, with GenAI, it's like sector agnostic. So everyone wants to be there.
Mhm.
So I kind of made content with AI. And I mean, if I want to make it interesting, I'll say that I want more exercises, hackathons, and learning by doing projects. And give example, if I want to do projects with the doctors, I just want to Gen AI for docs and give all prompting examples from medical science, right? So it's going to change the way I can make content. Earlier, I didn't know that existing knowledge is not required. Prompting into domain knowledge and you generate content, you show them this is how it works usually. You can find me on LinkedIn, because I'm very active on LinkedIn, sharing some things on AI and the work I do mostly. Yeah.
I leave the link below. Your LinkedIn posts are very good, by the way. I follow you. There's a lot of good stuff there. Cool, Krishna. Thank you. This has been helpful. I mean, even if I hope someone, even one person picks up what you shared or takes this to work, I think we'll consider this a job well done and a fruitful exercise. I'm for sure going to pick up a bunch of things that you said, and I'm going to be at it tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. Pleasure. Thank you. We've been waiting for some time for this meeting. I mean, pleasure. I mean, happy that
Yeah. All right, Krishna. Thank you. Take care. Bye.